Hello and welcome to Impactful Talks. Impactful Talks is MMCC-Raleigh's very own podcast where we go over an array of different subjects impacting our impactors' lives, both inside and outside the four walls of the church. It is also where we take a deep dive into leadership, faith, and community. This month, we are celebrating Black History Month and those who paved the way to help continue the legacy. Of course, my name is Robert Lee, and I'm your host for Impactful Talks. And today, I have one of our dedicated, in honor of speaking, one of our dedicated deacons here at the church, Deacon Bunche. How are you today, sir?
Doing great, Ridley. How about yourself, man?
Doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for, for being willing to do this for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man. Certainly a pleasure to be here this evening.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So we want to start off, Deacon Bunch, with the importance of Black history, right? So let us set a foundation for that. For you, what does Black history mean personally?
For me, Black History, man, I would say is just an opportunity for our people to be celebrated for the things that we've accomplished in the years past and even present day, but just to honor the legacies, the accomplishments, just celebratory praise that's necessary to be given to those that have paved the way for us today.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that. I feel like we have no way of bettering our future if we don't know our history. Yeah, I feel like now more than ever, it is imperative that not only do we understand the truth of Black history, but we teach it to those coming behind us. So, completely agree. You've been a leader in the church for a while now. So explain to me, who are some of the individuals you feel like paved the way for you, even as a leader, whether it was a pastor, a mentor, a family member, who helped, I guess you could say, shape the path, or who inspired you to walk this path of leadership?
Honestly, man, it started out my grandmother. She raised me at an early age. She took me and my sister in, and she kind of got me involved and into ministry, into church early on. By it started out, I was forced to go every Sunday. I didn't really have a choice. But over time, I grew to love ministry, to be a part of it, to be connected to the people, and as I grew older, I just saw myself just learning different things about ministry, learning different things about people. And then as I took that from my grandmother after I graduated from college, my wife and I, we joined a ministry before pre-MMCC Raleigh. And my previous pastor taught me a lot about leadership. He taught me a lot about how to do certain things with working with people and just handling certain situations. And so I've carried that now to being a part of MMCC Raleigh, where I've been a part of for 7 years now. And just being in leadership, I'm constantly learning, still growing, but I kind of took the foundation that my grandmother started many years ago and still applying those same principles now to being a leader in the church. So that's kind of where it started for me.
That's awesome, man. That's powerful. It's funny that you mentioned your grandmother, and like you said, you actually you didn't have a choice if you wanted to.
Nope.
For our generation, I think most of us, that's the story. You know what I mean? You were going to be in church whether you wanted to be or not. And regardless of how far you went away from it, how far you strayed away from it, you always came right back to it. I think for us, that is even a big part of Black history, of our Black history, right? Because the Black church plays such a major role for us and in our lives, and in really shaping, who we are and who we become, and even us developing a new way, even for the next generation of what our Black church looks like. It's for us, it was red or purple pews and carpet, right? but
Absolutely.
but that was a part of the experience for us, right? And so us helping, even that's a part of our Black history, and helping set it for the next, which actually kind of leads me into my next question. So uh, your grandmother was kind of the influence for you, and kind of who set and paved that path for you. As a leader, who do you feel like you're mentoring or you're guiding? Whether it's your children, church members, young men in the community, kind of, give me an overview of your thought process as a leader yourself. Who are you helping pave and guide the next generation?
Um, so I would say I'm leading first and foremost my children, of course, because they see me inside of ministry and outside of ministry at home. But in addition to them, I would say those that I serve with. I'm the adjutant general for our life changing fellowships. I serve with over 20 plus adjutants on the national level, and then also six adjutants in the local assembly. So I'm constantly leading, working alongside of them, but while I'm working with them, I'm leading them as well, kind of showing them the road, showing them the different ways to handle certain scenarios, certain people, certain situations from a spiritual component and from a natural component. So um, I love leadership. It gives me an opportunity not only, like, as I said, just to lead people, but to learn from them as well. So while I'm helping them grow and learn, it's teaching me a lot about myself and how I can do things differently as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely, man. I mean, I appreciate you for sharing that and expounding upon that. That's I appreciate, the humility in that, but that's not a light role, or a small role, or a role to be taken lightly. And so there's definitely, huge leadership impacts, and even what you're doing within that, and really your footprint on the next generation, or your handprint rather on the next generation, and even how it shapes their leadership style. That's a large, a pretty large task there, man. So excellent, excellent. Let me ask you a question as we hop into the next, kind of our next phase here, in documenting history, right, and setting goals. As we know, leadership, it's all about preparation, and as someone dedicated to faith and dedicated to leadership, how do you personally document your history, right? Are you writing a book? Do you keep a legend? Do you create video messages? Is it something else? So, what is your method of documenting the history even as you go along?
But honestly, man, I would say my phone, taking notes constantly. I use the notes app a lot, just jotting down ideas, strategically planning out meetings, planning out just certain things to address with different people at certain times, different scenarios, different situations that I came across, and even sometimes when I go to trainings and learn from other leaders, just certain ideas or thoughts that I've never considered. My phone is typically the quickest thing I can get to.
Yeah.
So I try to jot those notes down, put it there, and then come back to it. I'll revisit it later on. One of the things that the Lord has given me a couple years ago to do that I haven't done yet, but I'm about to do is actually write a book. So it's funny that you mentioned that, man, particularly pertaining to serving and then also just fatherhood
Yeah.
and being a father growing up, without a father. So things like that, I just often jot ideas that come to mind and then I go back and revisit them later on.
Got you. And I mean that honestly, I mean I think the phone is the new tablet, right? And when I say tablet, I mean like pen and paper tablet. Especially for us, it's I definitely we jot down things and we document things, and what's crazy is that they can stand the test of time because we don't have to worry about losing a sheet of paper, or
Yeah.
becoming damaged. I definitely like the thought process that you spoke about with the book that you're looking to write. I actually think that's big. And I'm definitely 100%, rooting for you and awaiting that. I say that because me as someone, I always speak to fatherhood, right? I speak to the impact that one person can make in a bloodline, right? I grew up with a father. Our relationship was a little different because there was a point in time when he was a single father. But he did not grow up with a father. And so I always speak to how you can decide to do one of two things. You can either let your personal experience, you can either let it shape you by allowing you to become that, or you can allow it to shape you by forcing you in within yourself to say, I'm going to be everything but that. And I can see how great of a man he became, to your point, really with no example, but he still did it and was amazing at it. I think that'll be a good book for, especially a lot of people in our generation, because I thought a lot of us kind of grew up in the same situation. There's a lot of people who grew up in that situation and can use that guidance, because sometimes some people think, where I never saw it, so how can I do it? But
Yeah.
to yourself being a testament, much like my father, that you can become a great man, regardless of that example, and you could be the example, even for your bloodline. So let's definitely get pushing on that one,
Sir.
Deacon Elder, make that one happen for the people.
Yes, sir.
So perfect, perfect, man. So let me ask you a question. As a leader, if you could set two key goals for yourself, what would they be in this next season?
Um, to remain balanced because elevation is constantly coming to those of us who don't want it, if I can be honest. And as you're constantly growing and leading other people, it's only a matter of time before God continues to push you and stretch you even the more.
Mhm.
So for me, I would say definitely balance. As responsibilities and roles may shift or change for me, I want to make sure I'm preparing myself now to handle what's coming.
Mm.
Being a man of faith with a family, a wife, kids, different things going on, business owner, I want to make sure that that's at the paramount of what I'm doing in
Absolutely.
leadership is being balanced. The second goal I would say is just to be intentional. Um, as a leader, it's real easy to think that because we've been called to a position of leadership, that everything that we're doing is, sent from God or always the right thing. But just knowing that whatever I do, I want to make sure it's spirit led first and foremost. But secondly, I want to make sure that it's very intentional, not just doing things just to be doing them, if that makes sense. I want to make sure there's an impact behind it, and not only on the people that I'm leading, but other people that are watching from afar as well. Because I want someone to be able to get to say, I've been watching Deacon Bunche or Elder Bunche, and there's something about the way that he does things that I want to take and apply to my leadership. So just making sure I'm remaining intentional at all times.
Absolutely, man. No, that's good. Make sure that balance and intentionality are two of the chapters in your book because that definitely that definitely needs to be expounded upon. But no, that both of those, I think, personally as a father as well, right? And to your point, elevation comes to those who don't want it, right? And so not trying to not welcoming that myself, but just even knowing even in life, with things going on, balance is important, man. And especially when you're someone who is, for lack of a better word, a hustler, right? A hustler meaning that you are used to and accustomed to doing multiple things at one time. And that's kind of how you just are as a person, finding that like focusing on balance is important because if you're not careful, you'll lose it, right? And then you'll find yourself everything getting off because you're giving all your attention here and what really matters behind you, family, responsibilities, you find it falling off. And then I think that intentionality part, man, that's awesome because when I met my wife had a saying she got from her mom. She said, some things are not taught, they're caught. So
Mm.
even in the same way where you were just saying you want people to always, even from afar, be watching you and say it's just something about the way he does things. It's something about how he carries himself, how he leads, the type of leader he is. I think that's important, man, because being intentional, they may say it's something about it, not understanding that you're carrying yourself about in a certain way for that very reason, right? What's being taught directly, but what they're catching. It's awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, make sure that balance and intentionality, man, put them two chapters right there in
Yes,
the
sir.
middle.
I'll get him in there, man.
All right, cool. So we rounding it up here real quick. But I did have to ask a quick question. So the HBCU experience, right? Obviously, a huge part of Black history, especially for us as African Americans, are HBCUs. We understand and we know why HBCUs were founded. We know of the prolific figures who are the results of HBCUs, including ourselves, right? And so knowing the rich legacy that HBCUs have in producing leaders, how did your HBCU experience prepare you for leadership, both in the church, in business, and beyond?
So I graduated from North Carolina Central in 2009, and I can definitely say my experiences while being there shaped the man who I am today.
Mhm.
I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. Never thought I would be attending the HBCU. I always wanted to go to NC State. But funny story, my grandmother wanted me to get a little bit further away from home. So I ended up going to North Carolina Central. Didn't know anything about Durham, didn't know anybody else that was going there. So it was basically a fresh start for me in a new area. And during my time of being at Central, just being exposed to the culture of going to a HBCU, the culture of how they do things there, the history, the legacy of all those that graduated from Central. Um, just even the people that I met, the connections that were built, it's really helped me to kind of become who I am and be the leader that I am today. I learned from so many instructors there, so many other friends that I'm still connected to. We have so many resources, man. Just the list goes on. Just the rich legacy of what you get out of going to a HBCU is so much bigger than just saying I attended a HBCU. And honestly can't even be put into words. But I know that if I had not gone to North Carolina Central, my path now would probably be completely different from where it is. So I'm certainly grateful just for the time that I spent there, and the relationships and the people that I was able to meet. It really helped shape who I am today. In ministry, just a lot of our constituents graduate from North Carolina Central, so I love that. And just seeing the difference, like, because you can genuinely see the difference between those who attended HBCUs and then those who went to the other ones, I can say it,
Yeah,
but
yeah, oh,
you,
yeah.
you can definitely see the difference. So just the way people think, process things, just their exposure, because I feel like HBCUs really prepare you for a level of life that you don't get by going to the other universities. You may
Hmm.
have the same access or resources to jobs, but that experience of being on campus, experiencing those concerts, just those different opportunities, the fraternities, everything, man, is bar none. So I haven't seen anything that compares to it, and I'm grateful for just my time and the chance that I had to go to North Carolina Central.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, you said it, honestly. You said it all. That the HBCU experience, is just different. And I personally would suggest, out, of course, there are yours, your unique things, right? A student athlete may get an opportunity to go to a school that, PWI, that will benefit his career long term. But short of that, I mean, I suggest every African American, high school graduate to attend an HBCU. You said it perfectly when you said it can't really be put into words. It's
Yeah.
just it's a different experience. It's like being in a community of nothing but family. And just like family in real life, sometimes you won't get along, sometimes you ain't gonna get along. But one thing's for sure, ain't nobody else gonna mess with you, right? You know what I mean? I might get on you, but we ain't gonna let nobody else mess with you, man. And it's just, I will honestly say I feel as if, in my own personal, I feel like being at HBCU better prepared me for life, not just through the resources that I built up. Because to your point, I mean, I have connections and resources to this day that I met in college that I still utilize to this day. Of course, in my fraternity and everything, but just from being at that school in general. Um, but it puts a sense of community and how to operate within your own community, which I really feel as African Americans in general, we've got to get back to. We've
Yeah.
got to get back to utilizing us as our own resource, right? As our primary resource. If we can't find it within us, okay, that's when we'll make a move. But us has to be our primary resource, and HBCUs definitely prepare you for that, man. It's just awesome experience. My own son, he's getting ready to graduate. And his top three choices are all HBCUs. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome, man.
so we're excited about it, man. He might be an Eagle, you know what I mean?
Hey, come on, welcome to the family, man.
And that's fine, I'm okay with that. Listen, I would have been an Eagle, but they got back to me too late with my 100% scholarship. So I had to
Okay.
go back, you know what I mean? I went where I went. Thank God it worked out for me. But perfect, man. Thank you for going through that along with the listeners. So this Sunday we talked about business, right?
Mhm.
Of course, you are a businessman as well. So this Sunday, MMCC-Raleigh, we're celebrating Black-owned businesses, where we highlight and support Black entrepreneurs in their church and in community. You're not just a leader in ministry, but you're also a leader in the community. You're a leader in business, and so you have more than just you have ample experience in that area. I appreciate the humility you're walking around with, but you got a couple of flexes on you if you wanted to. So with that being said, can you share just a little bit with us about your business ventures that you currently have, ones you're interested in pursuing, and if it's not too much, what's on your, without giving away too much if you don't want to, of course, the things you're getting ready to get into, but what's on your vision board? What's your goals and what even some of the things God has given you? You know what you get ready to come up on. What's some of the things you see even down the road?
Okay. Yeah, man, my wife and I have had the pleasure of starting a couple businesses over the years. We've had some positives and some negatives, and that's the thing about business, man. You grow and you learn from, the ups and the downs.
Oh,
Um, One of the things that we've been blessed to do is to create a collaborative consignment through several stores that we've had, where we basically provide an opportunity for people in our community to showcase their products and services without having the overhead of a retail space. So basically, we bring everybody together under one roof and we can showcase our products and services and give them an opportunity to reach markets and areas that they typically wouldn't have the chance to do. So it's not only about us prospering and growing our business, but we're creating opportunities for other people in the community, which you spoke on earlier. So that's been a very big thing for us. We are preparing to open up our first standalone location within the next month or so, which we are very, very excited about. Thank you, man. Very excited about.
Congratulations, yes, sir.
And it's going to be in the south side of Raleigh where we grew up at. So I'm very thrilled about that, with the gentrification, everything that's taking place. It's important that we go back to our community and our area and really reach the people. So stay tuned for that. I can't share all the details yet, but it's definitely coming soon. I'm excited about that. And even forward speaking about the future going down the road, man, one of the things that God has given me is I kind of shared it with you briefly as well. I want to create a sports complex or event center, particularly for basketball, where we have an opportunity in the area to start a program for, maybe underprivileged youth that may not be able to afford the normal pricing of AAU and sporting things of that nature, where they can have an opportunity to grow and be taught to play the game the right way. So that's something that's been on my heart for a while here now. So down the road within the next 5 to 10 years, I definitely want to get that going, man. That's something that I'm looking forward to. But those are two of the major things that I can touch on for sure.
Awesome, man. Listen, that is not only that's not only big on a grand scale, that that's inspiring. Black entrepreneurship obviously has played a vital role in our growth, in our history and our economic growth. I love one thing that you said about it's important to go back to where we came from, right? Me kind of knowing, a little bit about your ventures, the area that you're going back into, setting right there in Southeast Raleigh, an area that of course needs, is in need of resources, being linked even right there with a business and a credit union that is for the people, right? That's what the whole intention and the point of it is. And giving African American entrepreneurs a place and a space. To your point, people don't, if you're not in business, you don't understand that one of the biggest expenses you have is that overhead. Overhead can make or break and really kill a business before it ever gets started. So even acting as, what I would consider you to be almost a business incubator, right?
Yeah.
You may not be creating those business, but you're helping those who created them survive, right? You're helping them survive and grow, man. And that's big. That's big in the community, literally allowing people to put themselves in a place to help build legacy and generational wealth, and something that can be built to, for their future generations, to build Black history within themselves, man. And so, gotta give a round of applause for that.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You kind of touched on it a little bit. What would you say in your personal experience would be both the biggest reward and the biggest challenge to being a Black entrepreneur?
Um, for us, I would say the biggest reward is seeing the success of the other businesses that are connected to us. We kind of have this mantra where we love to see everybody else win, where it's not just about us. So seeing other people, the joy that it brings for them to, I guess, launch a business and start it, but not really know how to push it, not really know how to reach people, to see them build those connections and relationships and actually be successful and do things they never thought they'd be able to do. That's the most rewarding part for us. Um, as far as the most challenging part, I would say is the longevity. With any business that you start, the key is how do you differentiate what you're offering between someone else down the street? Because of course, everybody can do the same thing. Everything is duplicatable. Um, people sometimes they may take certain ideas, finagle them a little bit to twist it to make it like their own. But the key is how do you differentiate yours from the next person's? How do you make yours stand out and continue to, set the bar higher and higher every time you go? So that's the challenge, constantly coming up with creative ways to reach different target markets and do something that's never been done.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I appreciate you expounding upon that. I think, me personally, I think that advice like that is important for even aspiring entrepreneurs, right? Because sometimes aspiring entrepreneurs, their biggest thing is they don't know where to start and they don't know who to ask,
Yeah.
right? So just even those two pieces of advice will give you as an aspiring entrepreneur, they can give you number one an inspiration and a motivation. But they also kind of give you some help and some assistance in knowing what to look out for, even when getting started and what you should. One of the things, like you said, what makes you special, right? I think when sitting down and wanting to put together anything, so putting together something to offer any kind of good or service, that's one of the main questions, you got to ask yourself for. So I mean, that's good information, good nuggets, especially for an aspiring entrepreneur. We'll wind it on down here. However, as we continue, celebrating Black History Month, I think I have two more questions. My two last questions are imperative. So number one, I'll ask, what is one piece of advice that you would give to young Black men and women about preserving their history and making an impact?
Um, One of the things I would say is to make sure that number one, that they know their history. We can't assume that everyone's been taught, everyone's been exposed to certain things because the way that our society is moving now, honestly, things are trying to be phased out. And we
Mm,
got to make sure this younger generation is very aware and they know who our forefathers were and who kind of paved the way for them. So just being aware, number one, I would say is very, very pivotal. The second thing is finding ways to add to the history. How do we leave a legacy or imprint into Black history? So not only do we know what our forefathers did, but what are you doing from one day to the next to leave your own imprint and build your own legacy for those that are coming after you? So just focusing on those two areas.
absolutely. Now, perfect answers, man. Perfect answers. It's weird because it's weird you mentioned that because my wife and I we were just having a conversation earlier, and I was telling her how important it is for me to um, not just make an impact and really preserve what we're doing as a family and who we are and how what we're doing for the next generations, not just for us, but for those who came before us. Because if you're not careful, the efforts of those and the sacrifices of those before you, the ones that they made for you, will be phased out a generation or two from now if we don't do our due diligence in making sure that we pass that along and that we're documenting, to your point, what we're doing and make it important. Make the understanding of passing that information down important so that it continues to go along. You know, I wouldn't mind to have those canvas paintings of every generation in the family house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even 4 or 5 generations, that's what the other folk do. We might as well start doing it. You know what I mean? 4 or 5 generations down, they know who the forefathers were and what they did. And even in your case with your grandmother, in my case with my dad and my grandmother, making sure that their legacy also um, is preserved. And so my second question for you is, how can the church continue to play a role in uplifting Black leaders and creating opportunities for the next generation? You being someone who is a leader inside and outside of church, who has influence inside and outside of church, what would your thought process towards what we can do in order to continue to create opportunities and preserve and create Black leaders?
Just continuing to stress the importance of being involved in different settings and different areas. Um, Community is big for churches, particularly for our church, MMCC Raleigh. So I think as we continue to just expose ourselves, not only for what we do internally, but outside to those in the community, and just being more involved, not just during the month of February, but year round. I think sometimes we put Black history into a box where we only celebrate it this time of year, but just being, again, that word earlier, intentional about just doing things from January to December. I think the more emphasis we put on it as a whole, the more we'll be able to reach those in the community and keep them aware of what's going on. So
Absolutely.
bigger impact or imprint on the city by being consistent throughout the year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And within that, I think we got to get back to being a centralized, to your point, centralized hub of the community, right? There was a point in time where because we had to, the Black church was everything from the community bank to the community business incubator, right? To just a place of community and communion for each other. And so getting back to that we continue to create the leaders that we've been doing since the inception of this country, man. And so I tell you what, this has been an awesome, incredible conversation. Deep, we appreciate it, man. I really hope that our listeners are taking the nuggets that you dropped to us today and taking those to heart. It's important that we are the history makers, right? It's important that we remember that we are the history makers of today, and one day we will be the history of tomorrow. So the things we do, how we go about them, and who we are, they impact what the story will be. So for all of our listeners, again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, especially on YouTube to MMCC-Raleigh, as well as to Impactful Talks. Go back and check out all of the other Impactful Talks and look for Impactful Talks. At twice a month, we'll be doing one virtual Impactful Talks, and we'll be doing a live in-house podcast. And so again, this has been Impactful Talks. My name is Robert Lee. Deacon Bunche, we appreciate you, man.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for having me, man.
Absolutely. Any words you want to give us on the way out?
Um, I would say, man, just make sure again we're being intentional. We're celebrating Black History, not just for the month of February, but year round. And just whatever you do in life going forward, make sure you leave your own lasting imprint and legacy to build on.
Amen. We'll leave on that. So what we got about what 6 months, 7 months to the book come out. When can we get ready to go and get up on that?
As soon as I get this store opened up and going, man, I'm planning to do it early 2026. Yes, sir.
Excellent. We'll be looking for it, man. We'll have you back again when that happens. Make sure we talk about that. But again, thank you for joining Impactful Talks. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next time. Thank you.